Here's some of the things that you might need to take care of a gunshot wound, stab wound, a puncture wound, one of those things. First thing and foremost is we want to have some gloves on, because you don't know what the patient might be carrying as far as diseases. You don't want to get blood all over your hands. So try to have a good pair of gloves on. With anything, we've got to have bandaging. Is to control bleeding. We talked about in my how to control bleeding video that all bleeding stops eventually. So we need to try to get it controlled very quickly. So we want to have plenty of bandaging to get this under control. Also, you see I've got a plastic bag here. This is going to be some of your chest injuries. We're going to talk about that a little later in the video. For your puncture injuries, we're going to have bulky dressing as well. We've got a couple of different types of bulky dressing, and also some tape is always handy to have. Like Such was saying, I've worked for a busy 911 system for 7 years now. I've seen my share of gunshot wounds. So this is just some basic tips on how to take care of someone who's been injured by a gunshot wound. First off is we've got our gloves on to try to protect ourselves and protect the person as well. With a gunshot wound, you're not going to know where the bullet has traveled once it's entered into the body. So we want to keep the patient as still as possible. During this, I'm going to hold Such's head still by just placing 2 bags on either side of his head, just to help remind him not to move his head. Starting from the head, working our way down, if you've got someone with a gunshot wound to the head, it's going to be very vascular. I mean, it's going to bleed a lot. So a lot of bulky dressing is going to be what you're going to use to control this. By direct pressure and holding it. Don't keep moving it off, and just keep holding it. Working our way down, if you've got someone who's been shot from the neck all the way down to the lower rib cage, that has the possibility of being a sucking chest wound, meaning that there's a hole and air is going to be rushing in and out of it. When air is rushing in and out of the chest cavity or the neck area, it's not going to the lungs. It means your patient can get hypoxic, and their respiratory rate is going to start decreasing, and they can go into respiratory failure unless you fix it. One of the simplest and easiest way to fix this is simply by putting a gloved hand over the injury. When he breathes in, it's going to create a suction there and stop air from rushing in. So, easiest way to fix this, put a gloved hand on there. Once we get it fixed, I'm going to show you a cheap, easy way to fix it temporarily if you're out in the wilderness, unable to get to help very quickly. Take a plastic bag. We're going to cut this one. That's why it's always good to have a good pocket knife on you. This isn't the most sterile, but in the wilderness, when you can't get to help very quickly, this is going to save your life or your friend's life. Take this plastic, and once again, make a seal over where the injury is. Now, to keep it in place, we're just going to tape it down on 3 sides. You tape it down on 3 sides, so when he takes a breath in, it's going to suck to his chest and seal. When he takes a breath out, it'll release and it will let air come out so he doesn't get further injury. Just using some simple tape, and we're going to take this down. Now, of course, we would have removed all of his clothes from where the possible injury. We wouldn't tape this on top of his shirt. There we go. That is how we treat a gunshot wound to the chest. Also, remember that the lungs are on the back side. So if you get a gunshot wound to the back, this is going to be the exact same treatment, you're just going to do it on the back. With a gunshot wound to the abdomen or pelvis, you're going to want to control that with bulky dressing like we've done before. Take a bulky dressing pad and apply direct pressure. Don't keep removing it, just keep adding on top of it. The next part we're going to talk about is, say Such has been shot in the arm. We're going to talk about how to control bleeding to the gunshot wound to the arm. Simply, once again, apply direct pressure. And if that doesn't control the bleeding, then we're going to go with our bulky dressing and put a bulky dressing to the arm. If that doesn't control the bleeding, then we'll have to go to a tourniquet. I'm going to show you quickly how to tie a tourniquet. Tying a tourniquet can be one of the most effective ways to control bleeding if you're out in the wilderness and it's going to be an extended time before you can get help. So I'm going to go through, show you how to tie this tourniquet. You want to apply the tourniquet just above the site where the bleeding is. Use a wide bandage. Just make a simple overhand knot. Take a pin or something straight that you can rotate to tighten this up. Once again, another simple over-the-hand knot. And because Such is my friend and I don't want to hurt him, I'm not going to tighten this up. But you would begin to rotate that. You rotate it until the bleeding stops, and then you just secure the pin tightly so it doesn't unravel. Remember that applying a tourniquet is a last resort. There is a possibility that this patient could lose his extremity.